Good afternoon, everybody. I think we're coming through clear as day here on what will go down in history as a big day in crypto, and not for all the right reasons. As Bitcoin plunged to below 30,000, Ethereum saw sub 2K. Basically, everything across the market shit out anyone in there that had leverage at all. We're going to get some numbers up here a little later on Liquidations. So if you survived, if you're here watching, welcome. Good to have you. As always, we got the full panel here today. How are you guys hanging in?
Hanging.
I've got my Bitcoin grenade.
Throw that
right
shit
here.
right now.
I have one left.
What is that?
We threw two of them already.
What an emotional day. What an emotional week.
I will say, I've in my 8 years in crypto, I've never seen anything like what just happened. I was talking to the guys before the show, and I said that I woke up this morning and I looked at my phone and I couldn't even believe it. I had to refresh my browser. I thought TradingView was fucked up.
Yeah, my one saving grace was that I wasn't really trying to buy the dip. I had cash ready. I puked a lot of my stuff at around 40 last night when it broke down. I was like, fuck, it's probably going to be bad. I better, and I wanted to consolidate so I could have cash to buy something more, concentrated. But I wasn't. This morning I'm watching, I'm like, 36, 34. Like, I wasn't trying to buy it. And if I was, I would have bought it way too early and I would have puked it probably. And it was just when it got super absurd that I just thought, I have to buy this. Bull or bear, this thing is going to go up, something stupid. So I aped in. And as you guys know, I've got to claim the fame now. I put the bottom on FTX USD spot on Bitcoin. I did. My bid got half full.
Thing,
never went a cent below.
Yeah, people LARP, and everybody wants to act like they called it on Twitter. I'm like, that just pissed. I got on Twitter this morning. I'm looking around, and my feed's full of people saying, "If you would listen to me, blah blah blah." It's like, look, I get it. Like, you might have said, like, here's a short or Bitcoin's going down, but did you call this? Like, come on, you got to give RT some credit though. He actually, because when I'm talking about LARPing, calling the bottom, calling this dip is one thing. Yeah. Random Task actually literally bought the exact bottom on FTX. Half of his bid didn't fill, which is pretty fucking nuts.
2/3, unfortunately. But yeah, I appreciate it, man, because you're right. And I always, I'll rant in the Discord. People like, great call. I'm like, it's not a call. I'm just telling you what I'm doing. I'm giving you some advice, like, not advice, but, financial analysis, market analysis. But then, yeah, I was literally just shit posting. I was like, I'm going to bid 29,150 because I can't not engage with this muck. And like 4 minutes later, it partially filled me. Like, it was the first time I've seen FTX under pressure. It was not responding. I couldn't, I was trying to add another order.
Wasn't Coinbase down as well?
I just read a tweet. Somebody said everything was down, but FTX. I will admit FTX did struggle at that exact bottom moment. But as Dan pointed out before the stream, like, there was about 12 minutes down there.
It stayed down. Yeah. What I was surprised, you had issues on it. I know some other people that had real issues on it. I literally was in my car coming back from the gym and pulled my car over to buy Ethereum when it was at like 2050. And from my phone had zero issues. It was so random.
So it might have been a desktop issue. I'm getting mixed reports that Binance, some people could order, some people couldn't. I've been off on Binance where it was down, and for others it wasn't. But below, Ethereum spent over 8 different minutes below $2,100 this morning. Yeah. It was not, it was. It'll look like a wick on the daily, on the 4 hour, but there was some time down there, and it doesn't mean it was easy. Anyone that was already long got washed out. If you had any perp exposure, you were washed out. If you were just long on yesterday's lows, which I was, and I thankfully cut them on the breakdown, you didn't have the stomach to buy. It was a very tricky thing, and it's part of why we just talk about dry powder, cash on hand, and then the other thing everyone should remember if you're watching, because most of us, let's be real, didn't buy this, didn't have a great day. You don't have to catch this one. It's a fucking one day in the market. The market's not going anywhere, and there's going to be some really nice setups in the future. So don't stress too hard.
Yeah. It really, every time we get something like this, an event like this, the futures, the derivatives exchanges, the derivatives markets are the ones that you can literally watch and feel the liquidation engines. You can just feel them cycling through, and to think about how many accounts that they're cycling through and trying to figure out who to liquidate when. I mean, you could just see it. I mean, for how long was the Coinbase premium to every other exchange? It widened out to, I saw it greater than $2,000.
$2,000-3,000.
Where spot, like someone was fucking aping in to Bitcoin on Coinbase, while the derivatives exchanges were like literally, you could just feel the puke in the cycle through the liquidations. So it just, I wish I had, video of it, of what I was watching in screen grabs, because it was something to behold. But,
it was a really strange, like 10 minutes there where, because it did puke like really bad, right? And there was that initial, and then it bounced a bit. And that's when I kind of got serious. I was like, you know what, maybe I should be trying to buy this, like not on leverage or anything, but like maybe I should be aping a bit here. And I said, okay, if it makes another low, because it's already so absurd. And if it's going to make another one, that's gotta be it. Or sue me and I'm broken. Okay, I'll stay poor. Like I just decided, you know what, I'm going to take some shots here. And that's when FTX just went into like slow motion. And even when it filled that bid partially, at first it didn't. It said nothing and it bounced up. I was like, fuck, are you serious? It touched it, didn't fill. Then it was like 0.06 Bitcoin filled. I was like, and then it blinked, it went up, and then it like refreshed. It was like 1.4. I was like, oh.
When we're in those liquidations, like I just knew this from trading in the legacy markets on the screen. Like I literally I'm just not sensitive to the price. Like I just make sure I'm at a price that's higher than the offer, and put a small lot on and just like click.
Market.
I'm effectively doing a buy limit like above the market, not really being sensitive to price because it's so all over the place anyways. Yeah. And if it's going to bounce, you're going to get it somewhere, like you're going to be good somewhere in that area anyways.
Yeah, that's actually a really good way to do it. Is you limit your upside risk too. Like,
so get this, in a lot of the DeFi bottoms, a lot of that liquidity is on chain. And apparently, during peak Wojak, gas was 2,000 on the Ethereum network. So, I mean, what the fuck are you going to do?
Nothing.
It literally would cost,
You're
$1,000 to sell your position, or even to buy the dip.
Yeah, well, and they don't dip as hard. Those AMMs for that reason, right? You see the meltdown in the market, and then you go to try to buy ETH with your USD stack that's sitting in your Mu account, and it's not even that cheap because nobody's selling it over there.
I do think we have some record volumes today on different AMMs. I'm looking at Bancor here. The highest I've seen it in the past is 220 million or something like that. It's sitting at 510 million right now. Uniswap's harder just because it's in so many different places. I wonder what Sushi did. You check out. Sushi did $2.7 billion in volume over the last 24 hours, which is just it's unbelievable. It really is.
It's unbelievable. I honestly, until there's got to be a solution for this fucking gas problem on Ethereum, and maybe the solution is just these other networks. Maybe it is just Solana, Matic, or Polygon, whatever the rebrand. But there's got to be a solution.
The Jiao Ming in chat is saying he had a Sushi up on Binance and it was frozen for trading for about 6 hours and he lost almost everything.
Oh,
so
Jesus.
Really, really sorry to hear that, man. That's super unfortunate.
Yeah, it's Johnny.
Hey, turn your mic up.
Crypto God John on Twitter. Not sure who that is. I follow him apparently. He's reporting over 8 billion in liquidations, not including Binance, who apparently stopped reporting liquidations at some point due to just there being too many. So,
can we talk a little bit
worst
about
day in crypto history for that, or biggest? I don't know.
It's what precipitates some of these extended mass liquidations. I think a lot of it is, and it's something that's seems relative. I guess it's relatively new in the last couple of years, and you really haven't seen it in a massive liquidation. Is the idea of people using more or less shitcoins as collateral against other shitcoin perp positions or just other positions in general. Like, you want to talk about mini flash crashes and like basically like pull back anybody that has any understanding about like what happened in 2008, like in subprime. It's the same fucking thing, just at a much, much smaller scale. And you have to imagine that like the system is that levered. So like imagine that you're long Matic and you bought Matic at a like fucking nickel and the thing's trading $2 now. And you're massively on sides and you're using margin on an exchange that allows you to use your alts with a haircut applied to it. Like, and then Matic shits the bed. Your buying power goes down. Your position's already fucking roasted. And now the exchange is going to start liquidating Matic to cover your loss, because for every loser there has to be a winner. And the precipitous effects of that are fucking insane in a sell-off like you saw today. And I think that last leg down, that basically that whatever it was, that $1,000 candle in Ethereum, and all the everything just got sucked down like a vortex.
That's a good point. Like
in that move, which is what created a buying opportunity ultimately, right? But really, like it just goes back to like how careful you have to be and how lightly you really have to tread and how well funded you really need to be in your account in order to trade like that, because you're just compounding like dynamite on top of dynamite on top of dynamite, and it goes great until it doesn't. And when it doesn't, you're going to lose everything, and that's when like unavoidably you become a weak hand and all of your shit's going to get sent to somebody with strong hands.
And Bitcoin is really strong right now. I wonder what the odds of today's daily closing green are.
I got to take a look at it. That would be unreal.
Wouldn't that be something? I mean, shit, it is a 35% daily candle.
I'm just trying to find it here. We're going to pull up the charts in a sec and to see if we can dive into the liquidation data a little bit more. You just made me think, Dan, like, I look on Binance, you look at every single coin at that moment, just went boom and just washed the book.
Yep.
And I think you made a really good point about the market makers, whoever's managing those books, the exchange itself, they needed to some extent probably to liquidate some of that themselves to meet some other demand, some other
100%.
place. So that's where you get this. It's not necessarily all these retail users puking and stop losses cascading. It's the nuts and bolts of the whole system liquidating itself just to cover some other thing. And
I saw it in names that I hold. Like I just sit there as watching the book and can see the way the book was operating and just the timing along with everything else going on. It definitely was the exchange liquidating out back to stables in order to cover somebody's loss, and they're just taking everything they can out of the accounts. And look, it's a unbelievable product, and it allows for like ease of access to markets and whatnot. But like you're levered on top of levered. That's all there is to it.
Yeah. I saw an interesting comment from Kobe online about DeFi and the fact that, it's just kind of impressive that it didn't just collapse or hasn't just collapsed in something like this. All the borrow lend, all the leverage borrow lend, borrow, re-leverage, borrow against that, re-leverage. On a day like today, the fact that entire system just kind of is kicking along is pretty impressive.
You know what? I had a discussion with Kyle Davies about this a couple months ago. I was on a phone call with him, and he raised a good point that, like, because I asked about stress testing the borrow lend market, and especially like in DeFi with what was going on, and they're huge in that space. Obviously, like they're one of, I think Defiance Capital is related to them, and massive business there. And so he said, look, it's already been stress tested a couple times. I think like at some point after DeFi summer, there was definitely like some, like maybe a couple of days where you had 35 to 50% downdrafts, and it survived. But now it's like, it's multiples larger than it was. So yeah, I agree. It's
It's an experiment.
Definitely a good sign. Yeah.
I think it's still an experiment, but every time this happens and it survives, I get a little more confident, because ultimately, these stress tests, they need to happen, and we need to, we want to get billions and trillions of dollars in here. It's going to have to weather some of this. It seems to have held up today.
So I am curious, because what happened today kind of blew out everything I was thinking about this market. I mean, it's totally out the window now. When you go look for precedent for what happened, so you can try to figure out what you're going to do in the future. Like, okay, let's go look at 2013. Like, well, it wasn't the same back then. It's a lot lower liquidity. Like, that blow off was like 70%. We did manage to recover. We had that double bubble. That was fantastic, right? In 2017, it wasn't so much up only as it was now. We had frequent 40% pullbacks by the fucking dip, right? And when we finally had a pullback that was in the 50% range, that was the blow off top. So here I am, I'm looking at this peaked valley, and it's beyond 50%. And, I want to think like, hey, we're in a bull market. This is bullish, like, stock to flow, bro, like all this kind of stuff. Bitcoin has more room to go, but, I can't help but ask myself, like, was that the blow off for this cycle? And with that being said, are we going to have a big complacency like now? We're going to see, some altcoins go crazy. My guess is still DeFi. That's what was super strong before the nuke. That's what's recovering the hardest. And then after that, enter, an extended period of time where we are in a bear market. I am curious about that. I just don't know what to fucking do anymore is my thing, because I'm looking at this and, I'm going to play it as if it is, we're entering a complacency phase. We're going to have this massive bounce, we'll consolidate, we'll cool off for the next rally for a month or two. And then it's down to Goblin Town.
Usually after days like this, sell options.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wonder where you can do that.
Yield capture with jacked vols. It's the way to go.
There was definitely a few like high time frame models that got nuked today. Like as far as like, the Wyckoff distribution came in, and there's definitely a few like moving average models, people that followed like the 20-week moving average. That's nuked. That's dead. In many ways, high time frame analysis will say, okay, like the bull is over. Can it recover? And if it does, that would be like nuclear, and it would imagine it would go north fairly quickly after that. But I don't think we can really know, at least technically.
I mean, logic says that's the blow off, but you're totally right. Like, is this just like super retarded mega bull? Like, that's something we're going to find out.
Yeah, maybe there's more leverage available this time around. We never went below the moving average before. There was a little less volatility, perhaps. I mean, more volatility in some ways. Like, I don't know. All I know is that the debate about whether this is this or that, that's going to take place up here, or at some kind of throwback like that. You don't get a market that just goes, oh, I'm a bull, I'm a bear, and everyone agrees it's a bear and it just moves on. There's going to be an argument. There's going to be a debate. It'll be played out on the charts, and it'll be played out at a key level. And I think that key level on Bitcoin is likely somewhere up here. Possibly here. It depends how ugly and bearish it wants to be, but it could be. But it's going to have to hit a throwback, and that's where we can decide, the bulls versus the bears.
Now, we've got a question in chat. I can't answer this, and probably you either, RT. But Noah Richmond wants to know if maybe Rob or Dan have any thoughts around rising yield impact on crypto.
Yeah.
Go first, Robbie.
It's definitely one of the, talking points. Personally, I don't think rising yields from, first off, short-term stuff is all zero. That's not really doing anything. So the 5-year stuff, the 10-year stuff, going to 1.5%, 1 3/4. I don't think that the move from 1 1/4 up to 1 3/4, something like that, should really fundamentally affect the crypto market. I do think that the yield in general with what we're dealing with in the crypto markets, and this whole idea of, oh, now that CDs or people can get 1.5% or 2.5% on their money, it's going to hurt flows into crypto. Me personally, I don't think that's going to affect Bitcoin. I do believe that, like, the headline risk, the knee jerk, the, like, just because that's what it's supposed to do, well, rising interest rates should hurt crypto. I think you'll get like that knee jerk, but frankly, I don't think it's going to be a big deal. And another reason is that I don't necessarily think that rising yields is sustainable for pretty much any central bank on the globe. There is too much debt out there, and it is going to cost way too much for them to service that debt. And what do they do to service it? Well, you can say that they're printing more of their own currency. So, what is the rub? But that's, I think, why we own Bitcoin and why we own hard assets. So I personally don't think in the end it's going to be a big deal, but I'm talking about the little movement where
Did we lose them?
I think that the problems that come along there are.
We lost you there for a sec, Rob.
Oh.
Rewind 30 seconds.
Oh man.
Sorry.
Yeah, I don't know.
something interest rates.
Yeah, no, bottom line, headline, there might be headline risk to it, but I do not think that rising yields are going to affect Bitcoin right now. That's my gut, because I just think that there's going to need to be some sort of reset. The central banks aren't going to really be able to handle rising rates easily at all. Like it's going to be problematic. So
I have a somewhat similar opinion to Rob. I definitely think there's a price to it. Like on the way in, it definitely was a narrative, and lower interest rates, weakening dollar, printing money like crazy, obviously introduced heavily the store of value proposition and narrative around Bitcoin. And which means that there's some value baked into the price of Bitcoin. Now, like the reality is that, like a 1.65 10-year to like a 1.8 10-year, sure, knee-jerk reaction, like, okay, the 10 years broken out, but it's not like the 10 years going to like 6-7%, where like the value, like, and then other global interest rates are staying low. And if that's the case, then, everybody and their mother is going to go buy US dollars, and dollars become valuable, and the store value goes away. And now you're talking about years and years. And I think I almost think kind of Bitcoin's like the way it's programmed will probably outpace that. But I think something kind of somewhat tangential to that is this new narrative that's really spinning up, and it's definitely spinning up like in the more institutional, like in the with the larger players that I'm hearing a lot about, is like they're just not interested in Bitcoin anymore. They just don't believe it is a productive asset. It hasn't proven itself to be built on or anything of the sort. And so like when you look at Ethereum and like the other layer ones around, like Solana's and Polkadot, everything else, like things are being built there. Those are productive assets. And I do think that there is a strong case for like, that is the next generation of what's going to happen here. Now, like, will people build on Bitcoin? Will Bitcoin kind of always be this, kind of hegemon? Like, I don't think it's going to be the hegemon forever. I do think that it definitely is always going to be there. And if anything, will end up being this like some kind of, perverse flight to quality over time. But it's really interesting that like that narrative has really picked up recently. And then like maybe some of the sell off the last few days is the beta effects of that. And like and we've obviously seen Ethereum outpace Bitcoin over the last few months, and definitely alts have. And yeah, I mean, interested to hear everybody else's thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, do we have a precedent in history where the first of a new tech that kind of put it on the scene ended up being the ultimate tech in the later stages of that paradigm? I mean, I don't know that we do. I think, like, I know we always go back to MySpace, Amazon, and MySpace and Facebook, but it begs the question, and it begged the question before ETH rallied for 7 weeks. Bitcoin's tech is not superior. It's not cheapest. It's not fastest. It's not most decentralized, like whatever. Maybe the most secure. I don't think you can argue with that, and that's value. But I'm with you. I mean, I've for one, I did focus on buying Bitcoin this morning. That was my dip to buy, but I'm hearing you, and I'm like, why wasn't I looking at Solana? I should have, like, what do you think, Daniel? Do you think it can stand the test of time unless it's got to evolve, right? It's got to adapt.
I mean, how long have you been with us? And like, you weren't all in. We've been all in on Solana.
I know. I have Solana. I've got a bag, but it wasn't. One of the things I sometimes do historically is I get too caught up in all the shit and I miss everything. So today I was like, pulled up my chart, got my coffee, and I'm staring at one thing. I'm going to do one thing really well. So, yeah.
But
then I look left.
Pull up either KNC, that's Kyber Network Crystal, or Zcash. This is some of the most brutal shit I've ever seen.
Well, we should do it on the USD pairs, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh. 138. Did you get your fill, Rob?
No.
I know we were talking about KNC last week, man.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah. Nuke City. It's
now. I bet that's a reload zone. Here's the sick thing, man. If you really do plan out your levels, not like this is easy, but I know there's a handful of traders over on TRI where we do all this reload zone shit, and they're just like, "Oh, got my fill." Like the kind of bids that you're like, "What a waste of money. Why do you even put your bids there?" Like they missed the whole 2 months of a bull, and then it's like, "Oh, got my fill."
That makes me crazy. Traders that will sit out a $40,000 up move in Bitcoin to take a short to make $600.
But today the reload zones came in and they wicked and they were quick and they were stupid and they may not go back. They might, but they may not.
Yeah. I do think that some of the to be able to trade some of these alts on leverage, it exacerbates the issue a lot.
Big time.
I mean, I just don't know if the spot holders of Kyber Network were the ones dumping it at 150 today. I have a feeling that was a liquidation engine dumping it. And bottom line, we all have to know what we're dealing with in the market. And knowing that leverage trading on these coins is just more and more popular globally, it's what's going to happen. I mean, it's kind of clear as day, but that some of these charts are honestly mind blowing. And then if you look at
ZBC is rape, even BNB got raped. We're looking at in a period of, let's see here, 1 week, 64% to the downside. BNB, who, I mean, we know CZ has infinite bid on that. We know he has all the supply. BNB.
In China ban 2017, Binance was new, and from peak to valley, it went 85% down over a period of 9 days.
That's our magic number, man. 80%.
80%.
Here's the thing, Daniel, because I hear that, I think this and I hear this all the time. You think that like CZ infinite bid, right? You think Sam Freed infinite bid on his stuff. I don't think they're infinite bid in the market. I think they step in once things get stupid, right?
We're still traders.
Yeah.
But it's good to have, somebody with wallets that fat, like as a backstop, I'm not saying they're sitting there manipulating the markets, but like when things get stupid, I guarantee you either one of those guys, would step in and put more liquidity on the books than and their shit than other things can afford.
Sure.
Yeah.
I heard Justin Sun bought the dip today, something about $150 million in Bitcoin.
Here's what people don't understand about Justin Sun, and I don't know how he did it, but that dude is rich as fuck. He's a billionaire.
Yeah.
What do you mean you don't know how he did it? He sold fucking billions of dollars of Tron.
Tron.
Dude, I feel
Tron
like he had some money. I feel like he had some money before that.
Fuck. I mean,
dude, I love seeing him. I used to love seeing him at conferences. He's this little guy. He'd be walking around, and then there was this kind of like heavier set other little dude who used to carry all his shit for him that would always like literally be 5 feet behind him.
But the pump on the coin.
Fucking hysterical. I love
always
it.
Got a smile on his face. He's doing
always
something
fun.
Right.
I mean, I'd always be smiling if I was a billionaire. I do follow a lot of these large DeFi funds on Zapper. If you guys don't do that, you're missing out on a lot because you can literally see what they're holding, what they're getting into, what they're getting out of. Herein is a great tool for that as well. And I watch some of these big DeFi funds, that have $200, $300 million draw down, 150 million. And I wonder at that point, if you have that much money, there's not really that much difference in being a guy with $150 million and being a guy with $300 million. Now, for somebody like anybody watching this stream, any of us, we take a 50% haircut. We're like, fuck, like there goes all my plans. But, at that point, like, do you think that those guys are like sick at their fucking stomachs? Or, I'm wondering if they're just like, fuck it. I still have 9 figures, it's no big deal.
I think they're sick to their stomachs. I mean, they might be, oh, fuck it. But bottom line is that's human nature. Like, why was
less than you had yesterday?
Why wasn't I hedged? Why wasn't I protected? Why didn't I own some puts? I had some guy telling me like, man, I wish Hxro was available in the US. Like, I need those TixWix contracts to hedge. And I mean, instruments to protect yourself are important. That people use them in every market on earth, right? I mean, that's why options and futures were created, really, was to manage risk.
It's just crypto. Yeah. It gets so blindsided with these little P&Ds that pop up everywhere. And it just turns into this game of hot potato as opposed to like thinking about it like you would, or I would in terms of really trading a portfolio. I mean, I think as we continue to evolve, that's going to be more of the dominant narrative, and a lot of, obviously we're, with Hxro Network staking a big claim there, but yeah, it's crazy.
Fucking Uni hit $16.
Yeah.
Ooh.
But you know what? Like, let's talk about it, because 6 months ago, you know how many people would be dancing a jig in the street to think that Uni would be $16?
I mean, maybe it's just code, but compared to where I was 6 months ago, I certainly don't have any complaints.
Right. No, I'm with you. I'm just like saying the markups on this stuff have been so crazy that on these real, like, I mean, how many standard deviation event was this today? 5, 6.
This was like a 1 in some X in the universe for sure.
So like, Uni $16.
No.
Yeah.
Hey, as long as this is not the beginning of a bear market, and I was saying this on voice on the Trading Pit Discord this morning, like, as long as it's not kicking off a bear market, I'm relieved that this happened, because like you said, Rob, the markup on these things had been so incredible. Traders like me, guys who like to buy value, like to get in dips, like to get in reload zones, I was getting uncomfortable. I was having a hard time longing things with any particular size or conviction, because I'm just like, fuck, like it's gotta puke, and it might puke. Yeah, it might go 10x, and then I don't know when it's going to happen, but I'm not comfortable until it does. The problem is now that it's happened, now I got to go, oh fuck, like is that it? And we're not going to know until we get up into some of these throwback levels, and up there I'll have to make a decision. I tried to get some longs today, but it's a cleanup, and it's just a matter of how long will the cleanup last.
Can you pull up a monthly on Bitcoin USD?
Yeah, let's take a look. Go with no. Let's go with fuck it. We'll do it live. We'll go with FTX. Monthly. Not too many months actually on here, but will this suffice? Maybe Bitstamp. That's better history. Yeah. Ugh. Like it looks awful. It's an empire fractal top. It's 3 candles where the middle one makes the peak, closes in a doji, and fails.
What did you call it?
It's empire top.
Like an Empire State Building?
Yeah. So you have your 1, you have your 2, you have your 3,
It does look
and
like
then
a fucking skyscraper.
And then it has to fail here though. So if it closes below this level, that's like a really gross kind of reversal formation.
Yeah, dude, that's like a
it's not great.
That's a repricing.
Yeah. And like I always say, market's not going anywhere. I'm bullish on crypto for 10 years. If I hate bears. I hate the downside. I don't like trading it that way. It's hard and I suck at it. But if it we have to take what the market gives us. We can't control it. We can control our decisions. So if we got to flip for a bit, it's just what it is.
Can you pull up Solana?
Yeah. Doji, much less ugly for what it's worth. As far as 2 and 3 candle formations go, that's.
Can you pull up Polkadot?
Yeah. So Dan, you've mentioned a few times, and obviously you and Rob have connections in the traditional finance world. Just about these large, hedge funds, prop funds that are looking to allocate to DeFi offerings in crypto, that want to get their feet wet. Like, are they? Do you think something like this, is something that they wait for, or are they just kind of like, turn the TWAP on, like, get in whenever, like it doesn't, because do they care? Are they waiting for a dip and then they're going to say, hey, this is really attractive now, like we're going to get in and we're going to get our fills, or is it something that like they're just going to buy whatever fucking price and wait for 10 years and see what happens?
Great question. I think that something like today it's probably split. There's certain guys that like waited till Bitcoin was at 50,000 or 40,000 before getting interested in it. There's other funds that will say, okay, this is an opportunity to buy some blood. I think we're, my preference is to probably be in the blood camp, and like try to get, if you have that long of a time frame, like get on the cycle or just find things that have value. Because there's definitely, a lot of projects out there that probably haven't, reached value yet. And you can kind of see that because they're not really getting, dinged in the market as nearly as bad. But like something like, there is a huge inflow of capital coming into the space and has come into the space. And like, I'd be like, if you took the top 20 hedge funds in crypto that are full crypto hedge funds, like all of them have been launching new funds, new vehicles, new capital coming in, like a ridiculous amount of cash. And like good percentage of them, I'd imagine, are deployed and are now, in this market. But a good percentage, maybe haven't been deployed yet. And it'll be interesting to see if they're going to get phone calls to say, hey, we're going to go into a wait and see and not get those allocations, which would be like, you got to remember the guy allocating that on the other side of the table oftentimes is like his job's on the line. Yeah. So he wants to see certain things in the market. And like, I think it brings into question, like, it's a market, so people have different opinions, and that person's opinion might be, hey, we're at some type of like at least like near term cycle top, and we're going to take a wait and see here. But I mean, you're talking about Bitcoin going 60% fucking peak to valley here, like that. Even for crypto traders, that's pretty fucking substantial. Like, to me, this was a repricing of a decoupling of Bitcoin to get capital moving into much more horizontal markets, like much wider allocation. And
what do you mean? What do you mean by that?
I mean, not too long ago, there's very large funds that were just like, okay, well, we're just going to buy Bitcoin and Ethereum. And then like now it's like, hey, you can do Bitcoin, Ethereum, and the DeFi blue chips. And then it's like, hey, you can do anything that has over a $1 billion valuation, or like,
sure.
It's just the playable market for these funds is getting wider and wider.
Yeah.
And depending on like what kind of funds are they in the market buying? Are they just looking for, are they seeds? Like, most of them are probably a combination of all of that. But like, yeah, it's just, it's kind of all over the map. But I can tell you at the end of the day, there is like a ridiculous amount of capital coming into this market. And I do think, again, that this to me looks like, and has been kind of the narrative, and it's really been, and hearing it more and more from these bigger guys, like Bitcoin becoming less important, and them allocating capital to a much wider opportunity set. And this decoupling probably led to a lot of beta, which led to selling and led to more selling. And you couple a couple of bad news things on there, like, bullshit, more China FUD and Elon and all this other shit. And next thing you know, like, now you're in that liquidation vortex, and next thing you know, like, the market goes down fucking 30% a day.
It's interesting you mentioned, decoupling, because I have seen, a couple guys, I think Sue mentioned that on Twitter, and, people talking about how, in the future, there's a chance, or maybe they didn't even, frame it that way. Maybe they just said this is how it's going to be, that, Bitcoin can be in a bear market while maybe Ethereum is in a bull market and DeFi is in a bear market, or any kind of variation of that,
It's almost like a sector trade.
Yeah, I mean, it would be interesting, if Bitcoin enters, a 6-month bear market, and, we see DeFi enter a huge bull market, or we see everything enter into a bear market together. For me, I've always seen it like it's crypto, crypto's in a bull, crypto's in a bear. There's all of these new, this time it's different. Like this new talk about, like you said, these funds have a lot more optionality now. They've got more choices. They've got more things that they are interested in. There is obvious growth in the DeFi sector. If funds were going to get into anything, you'd imagine that that's the kind of stuff they would be buying, especially, with longer term outlooks. So,
I think, yeah, I saw that tweet. I retweeted that, actually. That was from our boy Wang, who basically just said what you just went over, that, crypto SOVs, crypto commodities, crypto equities, over time, they may not have to all move together. And Bitcoin is really, the store of value use case is strong. The secure network and moving large sums of money fast, that's its strength. But I think in human nature, storing your wealth is step one. Okay, let's make sure we secure what we've got. But now we want to grow it. We want to make money. And it's natural for people to then, there's liquidity now in things like Ethereum, like DOT, Solana, whatever else. Well, let's go make some money. Let's get into the DeFi. Let's start getting yields. Bitcoin does not do any of that. And if it does it on one of those platforms.
Right.
So it makes perfect sense for this next sort of paradigm within crypto to be that decoupling. And we're hearing a lot more about that narrative heating up.
So Max DeMarcos in chat, and I actually saw some talk about this on Twitter as well. He says, do you not think that Sue and Kyle are just on PSYOPs. Sue called dominance to go much higher when 3AC were allocated to Bitcoin. Then Kyle called 0.12 ETH Bitcoin when they were allocated to Ethereum. Today, they moved up to the top spot on the Finex leaderboards.
That's BS.
Are you suspicious? Are those guys playing games? You know, I do think that they have massive spot holdings. So I would imagine if they were to move to a top spot on a leaderboard somewhere like Bitfinex, that, you know, they were hedged and, you know,
can I just say
I don't know if they made money or not. Yeah, but go
the
ahead.
one thing that people need to understand on those Bitfinex leaderboards is that they are generally, when you see big accounts like that, 9 times out of 10, they're long in one place and short somewhere else.
Yep.
They don't trade that unsophisticated where they just like, well, there's definitely guys out there that have $100-200 million outright positions for sure. But when you see traders active at the top of those leaderboards, that is like 95% of the time, they're just long in one place, short the other. This is how you trade. This is what professional trading is. It's arbitrage. You're spreading. You're running a book. You're running a kind of a correlated portfolio. You're buying certain things, selling others, and derivatives in crypto allow you to do that. And doing it cross exchange, there's a lot of available arbitrage there. And generally, like when you're putting those arbs on, you're doing it for fucking size. Like when you're a big fund, when you're pushing a couple $1 billion, like you got to move a $200 million position to make it, you know, to really capture the return out of it and make it meaningful. So
yeah, and there's actually services that I found out about last year that you can, like for arbitrage, for example, you have a trade terminal and you can be plugged into 4 or 5 exchanges and actually move your liquidity between those exchanges without doing a deposit withdrawal. Found that out last year where you could basically like have funds and they'll fund you on either of those exchanges to do quick stuff.
I mean, that's what prime brokerage is. That's what in traditional markets, it's called prime brokerage. And when you are like when you're running a book, you generally have a relationship with a prime who does something called risk-based margin financing or portfolio margining. And they'll look at if you're trading like, you know, product A on the CME, and then that same product exists, or something highly correlated to it exists like on ICE, like if you're trading crude oil versus Brent or crude oil versus WTI, and you're arbing both of those markets, then they will give you one number that's called a haircut to say, based on all of your positions, this is how much cash you have to put up. That's portfolio margin. Risk-based margin financing, what they'll do is they'll say, hey, you have all these positions over here. You got to put up X with the exchange for that. We're going to lend you the money over here for these other exchanges to cover that side at like prime plus whatever. And that's how prime brokers make a living off it. Or at least one of many ways. That is going to get much more pervasive and much larger in crypto as traditional financial players come in, because it's a requirement for capital efficiency and something that we're working on solving in Hxro Network.
Yeah, I mean, it's a no-brainer to have that tool available. I had never heard of it, obviously, as like an average retail trader. You know, if I see an ARB, I've got to buy it, then I've got to go over, you know, withdraw it, wait for the withdrawal to go through, and then every other pleb like me is already ahead of me one block, and it's gone. It's a really cool tool. Yeah. So it looks like someone shorted the shit out of that on Finex. That might have been that infinite bid you were talking about, Rob. The open short interest exploded yesterday. So for anybody who watches this kind of data, it's simple. You just search shorts on TradingView, and you can find all the different open and short exposure on Finex. And they closed it. It looks like they've closed it. So there's that. That's not bad.
Yeah.
This data can be misleading. I'll give you guys one example I had up a second ago. Let's go look at, let's say longs for ETH. Remember our Chad whale last year? I have to zoom out to see this guy. He was building this position last year. I say he, could have been they or she, whatever. And they were building, and every single dip, the long open interest on Ethereum last year exploded up. And then in one foul swoop, it completely closed. And the price didn't really reflect this at all that day. And it found out that they can actually just buy the margin out of their position. So it seems like that's what they did. But for what it's worth, ETH longs are starting to tick up today.
Yeah, that guy was just T-wopping into big margin shorts. Big margin shorts.
Where do you see that? Like you were watching it or someone alerted you to it? Like where do you find that data? Because I find that stuff really useful. And as it turns out, it was very telling, right? 2 days ahead, big whale making moves. And 2 days later, they knew about the China FUD or they planned it. Who knows?
It's a site Daniel actually introduced me to. Agritrade will show you, you can filter by exchange and you can see the dollar amount of the trades and, buying or selling. And you can see the guy was literally selling however many thousands, $100,000, $200,000 every 2 seconds, 3 seconds, 4 seconds. You can watch him, set his timing for how he was executing his orders. And for a stretch, he was just literally selling $100,000, $200,000 every 2 seconds, something like that.
Yeah.
So Daniel, what is that? AGGR.trade?
AGGR.trade or something like that. It is cool, because you can kind of see everything, happening in real time, regardless of where it is. So
let's pull it up.
Tracks liquidation also,
the aggregator.
There you go.
Okay, so you were watching one. Yeah, I used to, I used to have something similar to this when I was doing some like leverage on BitMEX, and God, it gave me heart attacks, just like seizures. You just see it flashing because when it's kind of quiet right now, but when it gets going in those moments, it's like 10 million, 10 million, 10 million liquidated, and you're just like, oh my God, I just want to go to bed. Leave me alone.
Yeah, when you see like
it needs to have that voice actually.
Yeah, you need to finish him.
And you like. You can see it. Like even if you watch FTX's order books, you can see when people automate trades and you see a certain amount going off every 2 seconds, every 10 seconds, every 20 seconds, however they want to set it. You can tell when someone's in there, and sometimes it's a nominal amount, and they're just like, listen, I want to sell one of these, a one lot every 5 seconds, and they're literally just peppering a one lot for 24 hours straight every certain amount of seconds, and that's how they want to get out of their position. And great, like I think that's a great way. It doesn't really affect the market too much. It's pretty benign, and it's just quantitative. So you can see more and more of that going on, but yeah. This guy was just blasting Bitcoin every few seconds for size, and he was right. I mean, whatever he knew, whatever he was watching,
he was acting on information. With that kind of conviction, you got to think it must be so comfy to just 1 million, whatever the batches were. You got to figure, and from the looks of it, closed it. So it sounds like a tip off on China FUD, whatever it was. It's amazing to me. Now I didn't do the deep dive myself. So if someone's watching and they're like, no, that's not correct, please share with us what you know. But what I heard is that first of all, I read the China article. It's like an association making a recommendation for certain businesses to stay out of some part of crypto. Like it's not even that bad. And I think it's a couple weeks old. Like apparently what it's being reported on had happened weeks ago. So I always find it suspect when it's like, we're sitting on our last support. There's no buyers left at this level. Loads of China FUD. And then it's like a 3-week-old story. And that was the Tether FUD at the start of January 2018, reporting on Bitfinex and Tether and the DOJ, whatever it was. That was an old story. That was from early December. But they loaded it right in the short reload zone after the bull kind of ended, and that was it. That's all she wrote.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Yeah, the China ship that was years old. I mean that was old. That was an old headline, but
this is where they loaded the Tether FUD.
Yeah,
And the actual event that they were reporting on took place like somewhere back here.
But I mean, we're living in a world where the most sophisticated trading firms out there, they have scrapers. They're waiting for, they have stuff programmed for when headlines like that come out, and they automate orders. I mean, they just fucking blast the market. They've got the parameters set. They wait for that shit to come out, and they blast the market.
Then they shoot first.
Yeah, that's because it's a positive EV game for them.
Right.
So you see a headline like that come out, even on Twitter, if it's some fucking scammy account. That's why, like, I don't know, what a lot of people call this scammy account put something out first and it moves markets. It's not, it's not great, but it happens. So I don't know, that the China FUD to me is just that it's garbage. It's fucking garbage. But
yeah, I laughed when it happened, but I still closed some positions because I'm like, even though I know it's bullshit, I have this feeling that that's just the market doing what it does, the cycles, negative news cycles. But I'm like, it's going to work. I mean, I didn't short it. I'm not rich. I didn't call it, but I certainly got like, fuck, here we go.
Yeah.
And thank God I cut a couple positions before the nuke. But
I do think, for everybody watching, usually when you get an event like this, I wouldn't necessarily rush to put all your funds into the market right now. There is a chance, I think it's probably less than 50-50 chance that we digest this and we just move higher, right? You go back up to 43 and you get some solid action there, and then you move higher. But I do think that even if you look back to March of 2020, last year with the COVID dump, more often than not, you're going to have time to get in this thing. So I wouldn't necessarily think that, there's a real shot clock here that you need to allocate your funds to this market. I mean, when people ask, they've been asking in the chat, is this the start of a bear market? Who fucking knows? I mean, we're literally, 35% lower? Like, I mean, bear, bull, these cycles are much faster than normal. The bottom line is bear or bull, it's about preserving capital and about optimizing your capital. So odds are you're gonna have a chance to get in this thing. And also I do believe crypto is different right now. We do have a lot of assets that are, like what Dan said, productive, right? I think you're gonna see potentially a period here where, stock picking, right? Where the stock pickers, the coin pickers, token pickers are going to do the best. What are people going to want to buy on discount? And that's the big thing. I mean, the hot names right before we had this dump were ETH DeFi. Does the fact that ETH was pretty much, that ETH DeFi and ETH platforms were unusable because the gas was so high today, is that going to affect ETH DeFi names? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. But I do think that it's going to be more about what names you want to get into than just kind of buying a broad-based index here, personally.
Yeah, totally. I'm really glad you brought that up, because one of the hardest things, I think, on a day like today, emotions are so high, numbers are flying everywhere. It's very easy to just lose money. And like I said, if you don't have those levels picked, if you don't have those bids set, if you don't already have your plan, try thinking clearly in a day like today. And you're flying down your social media feed, you're panicking, looking for ideas, looking for answers. And in that situation, probably the highest performing decision that most people can make if they don't have a previous plan is just to chill. Because if we resume an uptrend, there's an uptrend. You can find an entry, like resume. if we get up here and it's just chop, 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 you're saving money. People are losing money. Like, no action sometimes is good action.
Rob, I do love those days from the S&Ps when you'd go limit. And then, I mean, I've seen it twice, actually. You see it on most days where it trades like a full range and actually at some point goes from like super negative back to positive at some point, only like to then by the close go fully negative again. But I remember like the Trump election and then Brexit. Both days the S&P was like locked limit down in the middle of the night, and we were like, okay, this thing by the end of the day, by the 4 p.m. New York close, is going to be making new highs, and both times exactly what fucking happened.
Yeah. I think odds are pretty good that we're going to have a chance to see what Bitcoin does at the 45,000 area. Like when that's going to happen, I don't know. But I do think we're gonna see, like, we chopped around there for a while on what turned out to be the bear flag. I do think we're gonna have an opportunity to sell Bitcoin a little better than it is right now. I honestly, this is the hardest part about events like this. I really don't think anything fundamentally has changed. Like, it's still the same asset we thought it was, or that it was a week ago, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, when everyone was fucking loving it. Yeah. So I think that there's a lot of emotion here. There's a lot of psychological damage to people who have watched their accounts draw down. Maybe they got liquidated. I mean, this is not an easy game. This is a tough game. So bottom line, nothing really has changed. Now we can say, well, are people going to be more, skeptical because of what happened in the market? Maybe, but it happens in all markets. Like, are people more skeptical of the crude oil market after watching the thing go $30-$40 negative? I mean, no, crude oil has its utility in this world, and shit happens. You think people are thinking about that right now? Not many. The people who got burned on it, yeah, but Bitcoin is what we thought it was, and Ethereum as well. Like, we've got a big catalyst coming up with Ethereum, right? I mean, it's about to become, really harder money, and there's, Ethereum's the same thing we thought it was. Does it have its issues with gas and fees and usability during days like today? Yeah, absolutely it does. But it's the same asset we thought it was. So there's going to be a lot of people looking to buy the, you look at it and it's like a 30% off sale. And if it's a product that you love, I'd rather buy shit 30% off than full retail price. So there's going to be a lot of people looking to buy this, but there's definitely going to be people who are like, fuck it, I'm out of this shit. Like, I'm done. So it's going to be kind of a back and forth battle here.
And here's my point about the recovery. If we maintain the bull, like you say, if it just, we move around a bit, we have a debate here on the chart, and then it's just continue on, there will be opportunities. And so one of the things you want to look for here, the big dump with the Bcash drama back in 2017, and then it was just a slow drip. And this is a daily. So think about, we just had 9 days straight top to bottom on Bitcoin, I think 11 now. And then after that happened, and here's that empire that we just talked about, but going the other way. So we have candle down, doji at the bottom, candle back up, closing above that. And that was a really strong signal. And as you can see, 2 days later, the bull was back on. And we even got that retest for anyone being patient. And you're back in. But you waited and you avoid that kind of undecided risk down here. And the same thing with the last China ban here. It was a little later in September, almost 12 days after the lows came in, that we printed fresh bullish market structure, and then you still had your dip to get back in. So again, reiterating, today might be a really good day to just reflect, take a day off if that's your style. Like, if you didn't have a good day, whatever. There will be, if we're going up, there's going to be time to get in.
Yeah.
like where it's a lot more clear.
Take a breath, zoom out. You go look at that monthly chart on Ethereum, for example, and like it feels clear as day to me that thing's going to trade back into the 3,000 some point, like before the end of this month. Like, and theoretically, if it closes pretty much above, I think anywhere above 2,700, it's still like somewhat of a continuation. So,
yeah, that is a mean looking candle right now. Let's hope it closes green. We've got what, 12 days.
Yeah.
Technicians are not going to like it if it closes red after that kind of wick. That's not usually how continuations are formed, but again, TA is best guess. It's not always right.
Just a tool.
Just a tool.
One thing on that note, like another signal that's always been a signal for me with like, are we in a bear? Are we in a bull? Is whether or not the market's backwardated. And the reality is that deferred prices are still higher than spot right now. So it's definitely come in a little bit, but if we were turning into a bear, you would see that curve invert, and you'd be seeing higher prices up front, and then you'd be seeing kind of like the DES futures and Bitcoin trading at a discount. That would be, to me, more of a sign of like, okay, now the guys that really can move markets are like have a different view.
Yeah, I think I've got a chart on that. I'm just trying to find it here. Sort of backwardization and contango. Yeah, I mean, we're still trading above the zero line on all the OKX forwards. Bitcoin dipped a little below, but is back into contango. And for those who don't know, Dan, do you want to just give them like a Cole's notes? Like, what's contango? What is backwardization? How do you spot it? What does it say?
Yeah, so what you want to look for basically is a bullish case is that, it's just to put it simple, I don't even need to get into the contango or backwardation, is just when go look at futures prices on one of any futures exchange that has futures, whether it's BitMEX or FTX or OKX or Binance, and just look at the deferred prices. Like, look at the difference between what spot is trading, what perps are trading, and then like what the quarterly futures are trading. So like the June, the SEP, and the December futures. And as it goes out the curve, if you're trading higher, they're generally like there's a real high correlation, at least historically, in Bitcoin for as futures prices out the curve go higher, that we are effectively maintaining a bullish bias. And conversely, when they flip and spot is trading at a premium to deferred prices, to futures prices, then it's generally, and look at this, I'm just trying to keep it simple and as logical as possible. There's obviously much more that goes into that, but like just to keep it simple, it really has a high correlation with what the market's long-term view is.
Yeah, and you can see here the December futures on FTX are trading at 41,000, and the spot price is 38,000. So you're saying there's an underlying bullishness inherent in that data.
Yeah, think about it. Like right now, you could still buy the spot and sell the future and hold it and get a return.
Yeah, that's that risk-free rate that Rob's walked me through.
Effectively, it
seven or 8 times now. I'm getting there. Yeah.
Yeah. So now till
DES,
like how many days till the end of December? Like till expiration is call it. You got 7 months. You got 200 days, and so take that. And what's the rate that you're receiving in terms of like you buy one Bitcoin at 38,000, you're getting a $3,000. Let's say you're getting a $3,800 premium, so it's 10%, and then annualize that, and that's the rate of return that you're getting.
Yeah, 226 days to the end of the year. So what are you guys doing right now? Obviously as traders, you obviously have some exposure. Like you look at your personal account, you sign off, you're doing your own thing. What are you going to go do after this stream or tomorrow or this week? What are you doing with this dip, Rob?
I think I'm watching, right? Like we saw we popped, but now they're selling it off. We've got the daily close. We've got Asia starting to wake up. We're going to see what people want to do. most of the altcoins I'm looking at are down 30 to 40% just from yesterday's close. So it really doesn't appear to me yet that people are that aggressive and putting their flag in the ground and saying I'm adding to my position, or I'm getting long this stuff yet. I think this was a really painful day for most people in this market. So unless something changes here, I think we're going to see choppy trade. I don't know what the catalyst is going to be for this thing to really spring. I mean, what we're seeing right now in the last hour, the sell-off might be kind of a little retest, and then they'll buy it up. But I'm watching. I mean, if you're sitting in spot coin, then you're watching. I'm not going to get out of anything here, but does it mean I'm going to rush to put new money to work right now? I don't know. I don't think the odds are in my corner yet. I think there's still some things we got to figure out here and see how the overall market reacts.
Yeah, I mean the trend is still down locally. We have, I'll tell you one thing I do like to look at when we get these explosive moves is, and I've talked to you about this before, not trying to necessarily catch this dagger, but watching the bounce up, which it looks like we've had now, peaking at about 40,700, then taking that range and hunting entries in a place where I know I can risk against the lows. This worked at the bottom in March 2020. I did bid the 702 there, and I got filled at 4,400 or something, and it ended up being really pippy and nice. Other times it does not hit. Other times it gets washed out. That's the best I can think of. If I insist on, maybe in the Asian session here, we get one more little, and then visit higher. That's the best I've got for my plan tonight. What about you, Daniel? What are you looking at?
Not doing shit. Just bag holding. I did a bit of rotation here. Just rebalancing, reoptimization of the portfolio. The way I see it, I've got a bunch of cash in my bank account. I've got a job, and I've been doing this crypto thing for 8 years. So, if I have to stay here longer, it just is what it is. It's my destiny. And, I would say right now, if you're in my shoes, if you're just a professional bag holder or an investor or whatever the fuck you want to call it, it's a good idea to go on TradingView, and chart your coins versus other coins in your portfolio, see which of those coins, outperformed, look for areas where you can optimize, where you can rebalance, and just hang on. The way I see it, it's, I'm either going to walk away a fucking major hero from today, and I did well, I rebalanced, I got where I wanted to be, or I'm going to get smoked. So we'll see what happens. I mean, worst case scenario after what we've seen today, I do think that we see a big recovery rally. I do think we've got a complacency leg. I think people get super greedy on this leg. We think that Bitcoin's going to 100K, 200K again. We start getting that talk, and then the music stops. Best case scenario, of course, is continuation. A lot of people are making fun of Sue and Kyle and all of them for talking about a super cycle, but I don't think that's out of the window yet. If we were to continue from here, I would certainly start believing in that theory more. And in that super cycle, we could have several events like this, where people just get, fucking smoked. But I'm hanging in there. I've been very blessed. When I look back 6 months ago, I would have dreamed to be where I am today. So am I coping a bit? Yeah. Does it hurt? Yeah. But at the same time, on the whole, when you zoom out, when you look at the big picture, and I'd encourage anybody watching this to do the same, think about where you were 6 months ago and think about where you are today. Hopefully you guys aren't playing with the leverage too much. And, hopefully the answer to that question is, when you put it like that, I'm doing pretty fucking well.
Yeah, Matic, I got to give you a big shout out. I watched your stream yesterday. Through the middle, you were talking about Matic, and you were sharing some really important information and alpha, I'd say, about rotation and your conversation basically around like if you're up this much on Matic, or maybe you just got in, even worse. But why sit there? What, going to go to $5, get a 2x, and risk the entire rally? And I got a couple people here in the chat thanking you for that because, right on cue yesterday, a lot of people were like, yeah, what the fuck am I thinking?
I just want to be clear. I didn't know it was coming, so don't give me too much credit. I think a lot of that's coincidence.
Well, that's the best part is that it's alpha, it's logic, it's, it's best guess. You don't have to know. But it doesn't make sense to go for a 2x when you're risking giving up whatever you got, 10x out of this, 50x out of this. And it's still up 250% just from 3 weeks ago when it broke out of that 42-cent consolidation area. So
what a beast.
Perspective.
Mega beast. If you had invested in Matic, I believe early November, you'd be up like 40,000%.
Dude, I bought it at 4 cents. And I started getting out of it at 12 cents and my last little bit at 20, thinking I was fucking happy taking a nice multiple.
I hate how obvious that
such
play
a jag
is,
off.
As opposed to anything else, because a lot of just shit just really outperformed. We're talking ADA and things like that, right? That have no use case. In retrospect, out of everything that went fucking crazy, Matic, I think, was the most obvious. This was a Binance Launchpad project. Historically, back in the day, people
great founders too.
Yeah, great founders. They were doing something that was necessary, and they were in the right time in the right place. In retrospect, looking back, I wish that I had just taken everything that I fucking had and went balls deep. And here's the thing:
you and me both.
November, that wasn't really obvious. But what was really obvious that I feel like I knew in my heart, and I totally just dropped the ball and I missed out, was after Binance Smart Chain success, not saying, holy shit, this is going to happen on Matic, and getting in, even if it was only for a 10x or whatever. In retrospect, that was the most obvious play, and I fumbled that shit so hard.
By the way, RG, you were the one that got me long Matic.
Yeah, I was just going to say,
Remember?
I tried my best. Yep. 2 or 3 weeks in a row on this stream when we just started our first episode. I actually retweeted yesterday because I just wanted to collect a little bit of clout for the panel. We were all over it. We were, I brought it up on our first episode. On our second episode, I said, you know what, I'm going to stick with Matic because I don't think it's priced in. And I did what you did, Dan. I had size on it. I was, I had good conviction on it, and I made a big chunk on it, and then I sold it, regardless of the fact that it didn't look done at all. And I watched it go from my eventual exit of 42 cents to what it did. So that's actually, I was talking about that on Voice again this morning. That's my takeaway is be a little more moonbaggy at certain phases of the market. I think is a takeaway. But the writing was on the wall for these guys, and they partner with people like as aggressively as Chainlink. After Chainlink, I think the next number one project that just locks in partnerships and network value is Matic, and has been. I'll tell you what the sexy sort of unspoken play was, as far as Binance Launchpad stuff, is when Matic went ham, what's going to go next? Remember, I don't know about you guys, but 2019, there was a Launchpad sector rally, and Seller and Harmony and Matic, all the Binance Smart Launchpad projects went. And we saw that this week, and I was kicking myself because I was like, of course Seller would be next. And it was. And then Harmony as well.
I think Rob and I have been so knee deep in Hxro for so long that it's just we just missed so much of these quick trading opportunities, but all worth it in the end. Yeah. Well worth it. Yeah. It'll be well worth it.
Yeah. Those inner little recognizing the echoes and then seeing it happen.
Totally.
It's not easy. And I think most people would sympathize with you. I think everyone in this market, if you're working in the space or you're just on calls all day, you're busy, everyone wants to talk, I feel you, bro.
By the way, that chart looks like a beauty.
Now we pulled this up just purely on that TA. I think it was some kind of bearish moment in the market. I don't know, sometime around here. And I remember we zoomed out. I said, look, whatever Bitcoin's doing, whatever ETH's doing, does this look bearish? Does this look like a top? And that's Seller. And I took my eyes off it. I knew I would. It was like 5 weeks later. I was like, oh yeah. And I'll see it when it's on the leaderboard. And sure enough, yesterday it went like 100% off there. And I think part of that has to do with the Echo on Matic, because it was also associated with that Binance Launchpad kind of. I don't even know what Seller does to this day, but I'm sure I'm going to find out soon when it hits the leaderboard and I start researching it. You always find out when it hits there, right? So what are we thinking about? Like, Rob, you said you're waiting. Daniel, you're bag holding. Dan, what are you looking at? Do you have any names, thoughts, strategies? Like, what do you employ in the aftermath of a big nuke like this?
Did I freeze? Did you ask something?
Oh, maybe I did. I was going to say, like, what strategy or what actions are you taking after a nuke like this? Obviously, you picked up some cheap ETH today. Is it just kind of buy and hold now, or
I kind of overbought and then caught that bounce pretty well and traded out of it. I spent the last few days, rebalancing Hxro's treasury, and just really been so dialed into that now, and we just got so many things that we've been building pretty heavily in stealth that we're about to spin up, and been making a few new hires and whatnot. So timing's kind of good, because I'm kind of like the personality that like I can't just, and I think it's just the trader in me that like I can't if I get over positioned in things, especially when the market's not like hyper cheap, then it's harder for me to go on with my day and take care of management items. But so I largely had been kind of scaling out of things the last few weeks, and was not in a purely luck, by the way. And I would have missed the move. I was driving home from the gym at earlier today and got a call from Rob, and then I pulled my car over to actually go trade this. Like I would have probably missed that liquidation otherwise. But I think just in terms of otherwise, just looking for opportunities that like trading opportunities right now, I think are really good. And then I think there's things in the market that are still super valuable. What one obviously that we're not allowed to talk about on here, but I've been looking at some other things like Arweave, and obviously like things in the Solana community. I continue to be very bullish on, and kind of after talking to a lot of these guys, like even like the Oxygen guys and like that, that really hasn't done too much. I like this idea of positioning ahead of things that are coming there. And my sense is that the market will go into some period of indecision, and
Uh-oh. We lost Dan for a sec.
That can happen. And just looking for opportunities to buy things on the cheap where I know things are coming down the pipe and where there's opportunity. Yeah, that Oxygen chart does not look good.
It's not happy.
I am not happy about that, actually. But I look at again, like it's probably like my age at this point, but I like getting into things that have really, that obviously have good economics behind them. And I am such a bull on like productive assets now. I missed all the opportunities that existed pretty much on Binance Smart Chain, and like, largely in ETH DeFi, I've stuck to blue chips. And obviously a big supporter of the Solana community, and and anything that Sam's touched just have been really kind of more heavily weighted there. But recently just had lightened up just because of things that we have coming down the pipe with Hxro and Hxro Network, where it's just the amount of time that it takes to work on that stuff. It doesn't do myself or the community any good if I'm focusing on trading and not on building what we're building. So
yeah, well said. I'm the same way. If I have too many positions on, or even one, and it's leveraged, I tend to have to write off most of my day. I looked at Oxygen. In fact, it's the latest trade idea in our trade ideas section on TradingView, and it's a great example of invalidation levels. I said, validations at the lows. This reload zone looked pretty good after this W came in and the nice volume. But this is a new coin. And I think what we're going to deal with here is some of that inflation stuff. I know the pre-sale guys. I was trying to get a ticket on the FTX IDO. I did not win the lottery. I did not get to have it. But the one guy I know who did, he's up tremendously. And so that's baked in sell pressure, right? Especially in this kind of market when guys are just looking to catch multiples. So any of those unlocks may hit the market on Oxy, and this is just not a strong looking chart. So for somebody looking at Oxygen like myself, who just puked their bag on this stop here, what I'm looking for, let this thing be. Let it be as long as it needs to be. This is a big technical breakdown. It is going to go into negative price discovery here. It is going to search for a floor, and that floor will come. Sorry to say, that floor will come, and it will look something like this. When you see something like that, ideally on a weekly time frame, then you can sit there, and it might take some time. And I'm gonna pull up MTA here because this is the last time that I saw this and thought this. And that was DeFi summer at $5. And we were looking at this on stream, and this level broke. And I just said, you know what? I'm not touching that thing with a 10-foot pole until we get some of that W formation. We never really got it. It tried here and failed, but that weekly W didn't come in, really confirm until January. And look what a sick price you ended up with if you were patient, right? People always talk about patience. That's $1.50. And all that time, right? And so that's why, one example. So this is something I could see, unfortunately, for Oxygen, wherever it ends up being, could be, wherever the demand comes back in. It's not there right now. But I'm watching Oxy right there with you, and I would love to get more. So I'm waiting for cheaper.
Yep.
And there's really good coins. There's coins that had huge buy volume last week that just now dipped into so Oxy looks like shit. Okay, let's look at Aave. Right, a totally different picture.
I think Aave is like a steal over the long term here.
Right, and conversely to what we just saw with Oxygen, this thing is on a huge uptrend, rising, huge buy volume, and this dump today is not new lows or anything crazy. It's just a throwback. So, where am I going to put my money? I'm going to wait on Oxygen. I'm going to hit the bid. Actually, Aave is the only altcoin I bought today in all that muck. Probably right around here. Actually, I bought it on the way back up. So. I'm about even, I think, on my Aave, for what it's worth.
Nice.
But, yeah, you guys have each shared what you're doing. I've kind of talked a little bit about what I've got planned, and that is, if anything, looking for a retest of that lows. Aave's trying to do it right now. It may not come in. We're kind of in like a pump chaser zone right now, although I think it's fair to say that there's enough panic and fear in the market that I'm not going to chase in a pump chaser. But if I can get some entries here, I may look to put a little more exposure in the market. Other than that, I'm going to wait for Rob to buy. Rob, make sure you ping me when you see something and you decide to lay risk back on.
Yeah. No, I hear you. I think it's you lick your wounds and just kind of survey the fallout damage here. And let's see what the Asian session does. I don't know.
Yeah.
Lately, it's been U.S. session has been just shitting all over things. So maybe the Asians will come in and buy the blood. I don't know.
One interesting thing I heard, and I know this is just conspiracy theory, and it's likely not true. So just keep that in mind. But there is some kind of 4chan post before this nuke happened that said basically the People's Republic of China. And they were going to get a bunch of people on board. They were like, this is about to happen right now. There's one guy that they're trying to liquidate, because they're mad at him or whatever. And they're trying to they're going to have a huge FUD campaign, which has been going on for fucking 2 weeks. And then they're going to get everybody together and everybody's going to sell. Well, I also heard that Justin's son almost got liquidated today. I'm wondering if there is any truth to that. I'm wondering if they're going after him. He was apparently maybe
this is the thing.
Minutes away from liquidation on chain.
On chain. See, that's interesting if it's on chain. The rest is conjecture and it's BS. And my buddy posted this. Yeah, I've been reading this too. You know what this reminds me of is the Operation Dragon Slayer. Do you guys remember that? The Bcash BitThumb pump, 2017. Do you remember that?
Yep.
Same thing, right? It was an anonymous post by a guy claiming to be on an inside group of whales. I'm just here to do you guys a solid. I'm going to let you in on what all the whales are doing because I think they're evil. And he talked about how like all the miners were going to suddenly dump their Bitcoin and pump Bcash and totally switch chains and And as you looked and watched this happen, there was this monstrous pump happening on BitThumb for Bcash, BCH at the time. I think November 2017 or something. This is reminiscent of that. I don't know. Like, hey guys, I'm just an insider, but I'm going to give you all my tips. It's just weird.
What? This is fucking horseshit.
Yeah.
Look, here's the thing on 4chan. Like, thousands of these kinds of posts show up, and there's always odds that it's like that one where that person said they're from the future, and they happen to be right, so it got a lot of attention. But for every post that ends up getting this kind of attention, there's 1,000 plus that are just total bullshit. It's 4chan, it's trolls, so probably not true.
It's funny though.
Maybe it is. I don't fucking know.
Yeah,
it's entertaining. It's always entertaining.
One little parting thought: take a look at the coins that actually had some aggressive buyback here. Take a look at the coins that didn't necessarily get nuked and dumped. I think that's a place to maybe start, placing some bets.
That's what I think the play is too.
Yeah.
Find the strong stuff that hasn't shit the bed, and it's generally those are going to capture the upside volatility and retrace it.
Yeah, or the things that were just plowing into price discovery on high volume, names like Sushi, Aave, some of those DeFi blue chips. That's what I got my eyes on as well. Again, in all the pandemonium this morning, I was like, I don't know, I'll fucking hit the bid on Aave, like I guess, because I'd had established in my head that chart looked good. But we'll see, man. We're gonna be back in 7 days. If you guys haven't already, and you came here today to ring in this historic day with us, feel free to hit the like, show us some love, hit the sub if you haven't already. We are really close to 5K subs, something like 100 away. So if you haven't already, help us hit the mark. Thanks for coming out today. A somber day for some, just another day in the market for others.
Yeah.
It's a somber day for most.
Yeah.
For somber day for most. I mean, nobody enjoyed it, but I think Dan, Rob, you guys have seen this before, and you're still standing. So, to be fair, we've all seen it before. I think it affects each of us a little differently how you're positioned on the day, but we'll be back on Wednesday next week to see where we are today, where we are in 7 days. I'm really excited to draw that comparison. Are we lower? Are we higher? I think the question is still out in the market. We've got some debate levels coming up, support resistance we'll get into, but I'll be back Friday. So if it happens in 2 days, I'll share with you guys my best TA that I can do that'll give us some edge maybe. Other than that, as ever, manage risk, stay safe.
Yeah.
And hug your loved ones tightly tonight. It's been
Thanks, guys.
Crazy day. Have a wonderful day, guys. Take care.
Take care.